Hello and welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I'm your host Cesar Hernandez, and we're here to talk about the Olympics. We're here to talk about the Liga MX, and we're even here to talk about, today, a little bit about the business side of Mexican soccer. But before we get into that, before we get into all this talk Liga MX, before we talk about what our expectations are for the El Tri in Rio, let's first meet our guest for today, Tom Marshall over in Guadalajara. Tom, how are you doing? It looks like you added a couple more scarves to your collection. I think you add a new one every single time you're on the show. Tom, how are you doing?
Just focused out a little bit. Get everything in. If it's going to move down every week, I'll just be like, it's moved down like that. Get a whole row of scarves in. It look like I'm in a different room every time, but yeah, no, all good. Yeah, again, loads of football coming up. Looking forward to the Olympics, and obviously a lot going on with the Liga MX, and looking forward to the discussion about the league with Walter about the Liga MX and the United States and the marketing strategy. Are they doing enough? So I can't wait to get talking about it.
Yeah, I'm most definitely looking forward to that as well. And then we have Naib Moran, who's over in Mexico City. Naib, how are you doing?
Great, great, Cesar. Great to see you. Great to see Tom, and also our special guest Walter, because I think it is an interesting topic. I mean, I think over here in Mexico, they assume that La Raza is all the immigrants that moved to the U.S. from Mexico, but I think La Raza also encompasses a lot of Mexican Americans whose first language is English, and they watch Univision because Univision has the games in Spanish, and there's no other way. But a lot of people over there, Mexican Americans, paisas, they're also La Raza, and I think that specific group hasn't got the coverage that they deserve. I mean, I think Santos is doing great, and also Cholos, but I think more clubs should step up their game.
Yeah, I most definitely agree. I mean, we're talking about the game right here in English, so that says a lot. But before we get into the chat, let's give a little introduction to Walter. If you don't know much about Walter, Walter has more than likely worked with your favorite Liga MX club on business development initiatives in the U.S. He is currently living in Utah and is a consultant for Victus Advisors, a boutique sports consulting firm in Park City, Utah. I mean, it sounds like, Walter, we should probably hire you and see what kind of amazing work you could do for us over at the Mexican Soccer Show. At the very least, you can help Tom's Wi-Fi or something.
If you guys are
Walter,
hiring, if you guys are hiring interns, I'm more than willing to jump on as an intern. So I need experience in the digital space and media space. But no, I appreciate you guys inviting me on. Tom, I met you in San Diego about 2 months ago. Same with you, Cesar. Naive, I haven't met you yet. So I'm really honored to be on your show. I'm a big fan of your show. I watch it almost every week. And so I think what you guys are doing is really trailblazing the demand, and you guys are meeting the demand that there is for Mexican soccer discussions in the U.S. for the English-speaking demographic, and that's something that we'll jump into a little bit today. But and just another disclaimer: I'm in my home office, so if you guys hear girls are screaming or someone saying "papa, papa," I peed my pants or whatever, it's my daughter. So I try to tell my wife not to. I need at least half hour to be by myself. So. I hope you guys understand if you guys hear any random screaming. Don't call 911. It's just my daughters.
All right, no one called 911. All right, got it. All right, well let's just get straight into it. And Walter, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Are Liga MX clubs doing enough to promote themselves in the United States?
You're gonna hate my answer, but it's yes and no. Yes, in the sense that just yesterday you had Chivas playing Arsenal at StubHub Center, right? Typically throughout the summer months you have several, at least half of the Liga MX clubs playing friendlies either against other MLS clubs or MLS clubs or other Liga MX clubs when they're all over the country, right? You had Club America playing up in New York, playing against New York Red Bulls about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Excuse me, about a month ago now. And so they are actively pursuing the U.S. market in that sense. There is some activation with sponsorship. So again, yesterday you saw Tecate activating that match by having a lot of sponsorship around that event. But in a larger sense, there's still a lot to be done. What do I mean by that? I mean by merchandising, by licensing. If you ever go to a Walgreens or a Walmart, if you're in an MLS market, you might see, for example, I live in Utah, so there's a lot of Real Salt Lake merchandise at just your local grocery stores. But you don't see a lot of Liga MX merchandise. Or if you do see it maybe at a Mexican grocery store, it's usually a counterfeit item. It's not an authentic merchandise. And so I think in that sense, there's still a lot more that needs to be done. And I'm sure you, Cesar, living in San Diego, living on the border, maybe you're seeing more of that as well now. But as you get further away from the border, you're not seeing as much of a footprint of Liga MX in other ways aside from being on TV and playing at stadiums. So it's a mixed bag, but they're doing okay, but they obviously need to do better.
Yeah, I'd most definitely. I mean, you mentioned. I mean, now here in San Diego, it's a little bit easier just because the border is. I mean, it's without traffic. With traffic, it can sometimes be about an hour to get down there. But you know, it's only on a clear day about a 15-minute drive down there. And you do see that culture permeating a little bit more easily just because of the proximity. But when I lived up in Northern California, when I lived up in Santa Cruz, the only time you would really see much about Liga MX, especially merchandising, is only if the team was playing, say, a friendly in a Via stadium. And you do actually make a good point. It is interesting to note that. I mean, for example, half the jerseys that I own, growing up from different teams, yeah, of course there would be knockoff kind of stuff, stuff you'd buy like at a flea market, which is interesting. So it is something that they could improve on.
And the best flea markets are in San Diego. If you haven't already been to them, Cesar, you can find anything you want.
That's something I got to work on.
Make it a mission this weekend to do that.
Well, I might be watching some Liga MX, but I'll keep that in mind. Tom, Naive, your guys' thoughts. Let's go to Tom, actually. Tom, are Liga MX clubs doing enough?
I would say no. I don't think they are. I think they're missing an opportunity. I agree with Walter what he's saying about the clubs going up there for friendlies and stuff like that. But I just wonder, how much of that is driven by financial, like just money grab basically. I mean, obviously I don't know the economics behind it, but I imagine that a lot of the times it's a promoter and saying, do you want to play in this place and we'll give you this amount of money. And I don't know, it's interesting with the Tecate as well yesterday with Chivas, because there was some English language stuff going on with the Chivas account. And I think it's like anything these days, it's like if the money's there, then I think clubs will start to do it. And I think with the sponsorship now, I think there's going to be more opening up. But I think the way MLS is so aggressive and good, with like stuff like social media, stuff like self-promotion. I mean, MLS talks a really good game. I mean, we can say what we want about what goes on the field, but off the field, it talks really good. You hear the chief commissioner talk, Don Garber, and it's like, we want to be the best in this amount of years. We're going to be here, and you can see like the ambition. You know what I mean? And I think that's lacking in the Liga MX. And I see the United States as a missed opportunity in terms of, there's a self-contained market. Everybody knows that. And the counter argument is that those people that Mexican heritage or Mexicans in the States are always going to be there. Why do we need to do more? We've already got TV contracts which are starting to rise now. But I'd argue that you're in a global marketplace now. You're competing with MLS, you're competing with Portuguese league, the Dutch league, the Chinese league, the Indian league. You have to. I feel like you have to really aggressively promote yourself, and that's where I think Mexican clubs are a step behind. And I think it's almost because it's so self-contained as a market that they have kind of got stuck a little bit. I mean, every Liga MX club is owned by Mexican. Whereas you look at other leagues in the world, even MLS, and there's foreign investment going in there. Obviously the Premier League's the big example, but La Liga, and I just feel like the Mexican Liga MX mentality right now is, we're doing pretty well. I mean, what's the need to push more in the.
Yeah, and I guess that's the problem sometimes too, is that perhaps some of these teams are looking at that market and saying like, we're already making money from these fans. I mean, whether they do release merchandising or not, it seems like they're probably doing quite well. But I do agree and say that but there's this opportunity to sell more. I mean, to sell more to people like me, sell more to Mexican Americans, to reach out more to the fans out here. Naib, your thoughts in general about
Yeah. I
whether
mean,
Liga MX can.
I think the key word here is the global aspect of the game, and I think Liga MX sometimes acts so personal. It's just like Liga MX is just for Mexicans, and that's it. I mean, they really don't care that much of what's going on in the international market. And for example, Tigres right now with Gignac, a Frenchman coming from Marseille, so much traction. You know, the Euro. He played in the Euro. A Liga MX player played in the Euro, and Tigres really didn't promote it that. You know, Tigres wasn't open about the idea of tweeting in English, tweeting in French during the Euro. We're in break, we're in preseason. It doesn't matter. But that was big for Mexican football, that a player playing in Liga MX was playing in the final and almost scored a winning goal. And also here, you know, the Chivas situation right now is interesting because of this digital aspect. You know, I have no doubt that Chivas, for example, if they take this Chivas TV deal to the U.S., is going to work perfectly. In Mexico, we don't have the infrastructure to sustain such risky move by Vergara. But when you see the Mexican Americans in the U.S. cheering for Chivas, and also the Mexicans over there, Chivas TV would be a huge success in the U.S. And unfortunately not in Mexico because, as I said, the infrastructure. But here I think the deal is that, you know, we want to see more America tweeting in English, Pumas tweeting in English, Chivas starting to tweet in English. I mean, they had Chivas USA at one point in MLS, but export that brand to the US by starting it by integrating English content. And I think that's a big deal. And I think the problem here is that we're always so close to that idea. I mean, I think, for example, the TV rights are not sold in England and Spain and other parts of the world. That's it. But MLS can be watched everywhere in the world, in China and so forth, in Germany. And I think that's what Liga MX lacks big time.
No, yeah, I mean, perfect example was the friendly against Arsenal. That would have been the perfect opportunity for Chivas is if they had an English language account to really promote that friendly, perhaps even get more attention abroad, going up against this huge, massive, global team. But they didn't have that, and of course they're still going to sell tickets, and fans will still pay. And I know, I talked to the stray goat, and maybe he doesn't want to say how much he paid for the ticket, but he paid a decent amount, like a really, really, pretty high price to go catch this game. But yesterday felt like a missed opportunity, and that brings us to our next question. Why should clubs bother with English language accounts in social media? Do they need to? Would we say that Cholos or Santos Laguna have benefited from having these accounts and having this outreach to the U.S. with English language content? And Walter, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and this kind of ties around back to Naib's point. First of all, I think what we're seeing is Cholos with Ivan Orozco, if you know him, he was kind of the trailblazer in generating the social media or English media content, English language content for Club Tijuana. Now you have what Kim Tate's doing with Club Santos Laguna, and now FC Juarez, which is an Ascenso team on the border with El Paso. They also have an English account. Hasn't generated much yet, but they're slowly growing. And
I'm going to cut you off really quickly. I've seen that account. I never knew if it was official, but do you actually? So it is an actual official.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. And so and again, they're still they're very much in the startup phase right now. I mean, they've only been around for 13 months in existence, and I think the account became live probably 6 or 7 months ago, and so yes, they need to. Every account really, or every club should have a social media account and English content. Why? Because Liga MX is the most popular league in the United States. It's the most popular league in North America. And so, as Tom was saying, MLS is very clear on their ambitions. They want to be one of the top leagues in the world. Liga MX is kind of, in a way, resting on their laurels as saying, we're the most popular league right now, and they kind of anticipate that they will be for the long term. But if they don't really start to capture the growing fan base, especially the Hispanic millennials, you're going to see a lot of changes, and you're going to see them lose a lot of fans. Specifically speaking about English language and with Hispanics, and Cesar, I'm really interested to see what you would have to say about this, given an article you wrote several months ago, if you know the one that I'm talking about. Pew Research Center had some data on Hispanics over the last 20 years, and some of the information that I have written down here. In the year 2000, 30% of Hispanics between 5 and 17 spoke only English in the homes. 30%. Now that's gone up in 2014 to 37%. In 2014, 30% of Hispanics between 18 and 33 spoke only English in the home, and in 2000, only 20%. And so what's happening is over the last generation, less and less Hispanics are speaking Spanish in the home, and it's English only. And so while a lot of these first and second generation Mexican Americans that are here in the United States, born to immigrant parents who maybe only spoke Spanish and probably spoke English to, or probably only spoke Spanish to their children, or maybe they decided, you know what, you need to assimilate to this culture, so we're not even going to speak Spanish to you. You need to learn English, and they've kind of grown up speaking only English. However, they still have their cultural, roots, their belief systems, with food, with beliefs, religion, etc., from their culture. But also, my dad was a Club America fan, so I follow Club America, or my mom was a Chivas fan, so I still follow Chivas. But what are these clubs doing to still engage with this growing Hispanic millennial demographic that may no longer speak Spanish? Eventually.
It's spot on. Yeah, it's spot on. I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead.
And eventually, these Hispanic millennials, they're going to have children. I already have two little girls. We only speak Spanish to them, but that's a decision that we made with my wife. My wife is also Mexican American. But a lot of these Hispanic millennials that only speak English, they're not going to speak Spanish to their children, and so these are generations of fans that are going to be lost to Liga MX clubs. And where are they going to turn to? Either MLS or another league for their soccer. And so this is a serious problem, not only with clubs, but also at the league level and also at the national level with the national team. And I can tell you with certainty that the Mexican national team is very aware about this situation, this phenomenon, and hopefully we'll see some changes over the next few months, or some activation on their end to really capture this market.
Yeah, I like this. You were spot on right there. I mean, my parents, they're from Mexico. My mom's from Mexico City. My dad is from Guadalajara. And at first they only spoke Spanish to me, but then once we moved into a very suburban area when I was a kid, then they just wanted me to assimilate as soon as possible. So it was just English, English, English. Even though my father still sometimes speaks a little Spanish to me. I mean, in reality situations, when I talk to my friends about soccer, most of the time talk about Mexican soccer, it's going to be in English. And I know I'm not the only one. And when you do look at the trends right now with the huge amount of growth of Latinos in the U.S., more than likely they are going to be speaking English predominantly. More than likely, I'm going to do my best to teach my kids Spanish when I have kids. I mean, I only have the cat right now. I can't teach my cat Spanish. But
you can try.
Try. But I know more than likely that they'll probably they'll love and adopt soccer like I probably have, but they're going to be talking about soccer in English, and that is an excellent point that you brought up, and it's good to hear, at least from you. They're saying that the Mexican national team is very aware and fully aware of this problem, I guess you could say, that there needs to be content in English.
Yeah, and I had conversations without naming names 6 months ago in Las Vegas with one of the, you can take whatever guess you want, but one of the biggest clubs in Mexico. And with them I said, why aren't you guys are big enough, you guys have the fan base tanto en Mexico como en los Estados Unidos, why don't you have English language content? And essentially their reasoning was, we want to make sure we get it right. And my response is, you have Club Tijuana, you have Club Santos Laguna, who are not in the same tier, prestige as this club, and they're doing it. There's no reason why you guys don't have with the resources you have, that you can't do the same thing or duplicate or even be better. And so I think there's a lot of fear with these clubs that they want to make sure they don't make mistakes either grammatically or etc. But there's definitely solutions out there in Mexico. In Mexico, and Naive, I'm sure you can attest to this. You have a lot of people around our age that speak fluent English and Spanish, that understand both cultures, that can resonate, that understand digital media, social media, that can really make an impact for these clubs. And so I just think, again, some of these clubs have the same mentality as Liga MX, and that they're resting on their laurels, say, the market's coming to us. As long as promoters keep getting us to the U.S., we're going to make our money. But they need to understand that over the next 10, 15 years, you're going to see a stark change where the majority of the Hispanics in the U.S. probably won't speak very fluent Spanish. And Univision is going to feel that pain right now. Univision right now, they're probably at the peak of their Univision, Telemundo, etc. Right now, these are the glory days, and they think that this train is going to last forever. But the day will come in the next generation where the majority of the Hispanics Spanish will not be their first language. Immigration has decreased tremendously, and so you're going to see this shift in demographics. And what's going to happen if they're not prepared? Now is the time to prepare. And like I said, the Mexican national team, they know very well that they need to act pretty soon.
Yeah. So, I mean, Walter, I think. All right, let's separate the national team from the league, just because I just think the national team is such a no-brainer. You know what I mean? The way I see it, it's just like it's you're a national team as well. You're on the international stage. It makes sense. I mean, even if you have no, English language market in the States, you should be doing that anyways. For me. But anyways, the Liga MX clubs. From what you said there, I think it was really interesting, especially with Univision. Basically, what you're saying is that, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here. In the short term, in terms of monetizing this kind of, English language content for a club, let's say just a middle of the road Mexican club, you're not actually going to see money in the short term. But what you're doing is investing in the long term and basically trying to keep hold of the fans in the United States for the next generation. Is that right? Or?
Yeah. That's definitely right. You're definitely investing in the long term, but you're also investing in the short term in the sense that a lot of these teams are playing in the United States, and so if you're engaging with your fans in English, there are tools out there, digital tools, where you can track where exactly those fans are, and so by tracking where they're at, whether they're located in San Diego, Indiana, you can get a concentration, and you can use that data to sell sponsorships for the tours when they're in the U.S. because you can say, X amount of Tigres fans are in this market. This is where you need to target them. And also, it's also, again, going back to the first question that Cesar brought up, are Mexican clubs doing enough in the U.S.? This goes back to the licensing and merchandising. I've spoken with a lot of licensees, a lot of companies that make products and pay licensing fees to NFL, MLB, NBA, and MLS, and a lot of them recognize or don't know that Liga MX is the most popular soccer club in the U.S., but they don't know how to market to the Hispanic fan base. And there's also not much available data right now to understand, other than TV ratings. There's not a lot of data to be able to know how many Club America fans are in Chicago, or how many Club America fans are in Houston, Texas. And so that's kind of one of the impediments. But that's where these clubs have to invest in themselves and engage with their fans, know where they're at, because then they can use that information to go to these licensees or sponsors or other partners to really be able to build that brand internationally, right, between two borders and beyond.
Yeah, I think here in Mexico, what I've been able to observe real quick, the point is that there are certain clubs that they know that there's this big chance over there in the U.S. For example, let me put Pachuca and León, who's partly owned by Carlos Slim, one of the richest men in the world. I wouldn't be surprised if Slim is already thinking or has advised the Martinez family to start pushing for English language. I mean, León brought some Japanese company to sponsor them, and I think that's sort of a sign. Pumas, for example, it represents UNAM, the best university in Latin America. Of course, Pumas would be interested in putting English content. And I know that people who work in the social medias in Pumas know how to speak English. I mean, it's just part of just saying, hey, just go and do it. I mean, they certainly have the resources. Tom, you were going to ask something.
Yeah, I mean, I was just wondering. I mean, I look at some of the owners. It's for Walter again, the question. But I look at some of the ownership, and Cemex, Tigres. Obviously Pachuca's got Slim. Like Naib was saying there, Pumas. Yeah, Caliente. Hank Ron, basically, for politician's son. And then, Atlas Azteca, America Televisa. And I'm wondering sometimes with these owners, if it's not more of a kind of vanity project, Cruz Azul, a cement company. I sometimes wonder, they're so massive, these companies, and football's such kind of a pretty small part of for a lot of the institutions that represent. They actually bothered about, making money and breaking even. You know what I mean? Or, I don't know. It's just something I thought of, and obviously the counter to that is Santos Laguna, who were obviously after they broke from Grupo Modelo and formed their own ownership group with Grupo Modelo still sponsoring them. You can see they've hired Colombians, there's a Polish guy there, there's Kim Tate, the American. And you can see that even in the transfer strategy, you can see they're really kind of using Moneyball, and you can tell that money is an issue, and that therefore they're trying to do as much as possible with as little as possible. Therefore, the English language content, maybe down the line, get a couple of sponsors from the States. I don't know. I kind of can see the way of thinking for Santos, but with these clubs, I just wonder if they don't really care because they're already massive corporations, and football's number one thing.
Yeah, and I think just listing off all the owners of these clubs, you can see that it's a pretty closed network, right? Of these oligarchs, monopolies, whatever you want to call them, and a lot has to do with Pacto de Caballeros, and I won't get too deep into that, but it's the barrier. So if you want to have a foreign investor, and Naib, I would defer to you because you're more familiar with the laws in Mexico. It's very strict having foreign ownership. You can only have a certain amount of percentage of ownership in a business if you're not a Mexican citizen. And like I said, in this special club in Liga MX, the barrier, I'm thinking in Spanish now, but I can't get the word in English. The entry barrier, the barrier to entry, is really difficult. And it's just a very closed club that it's going to be hard to do that. However, keep your eye out on FC Juarez, who is in Ascenso right now. They're owned by an ownership group on the U.S. side of the border in El Paso, the same ownership group that owns the AAA baseball team Chihuahua, the El Paso Chihuahuas, which is the AAA affiliate of the San Diego Padres. So talking about local close ties to San Diego. They recently were in they lost to Necaxa in the promotion playoff just 2 months ago, and so keep an eye out on that. If they're able to gain promotion and if they're able to really blaze a different path, I think you might see more of investment from the U.S. side at the very least, where they can say, hey, listen, this group was able to do something different than what the norm has been, but I don't see any more type of foreign investment either from Europe or South America in terms of influence from South America or Europe. You're only going to see that at the executive levels, but not at the ownership levels.
Yeah, for example, with America, they signed this contract with Huawei. I don't know if it's South Korean or Japanese. Yeah, Chinese, and it's a big logo on the shirt. I mean, so they know that there's money abroad. But I mean, I think this whole idea, I don't know if it's I don't know. I mean, if it's like a taboo to do stuff in English, because over here in Mexico it's like we pueden ser muy rencorosos with the U.S. Why would we do English stuff? But they don't realize that it's raza. It's actually Mexican Americans. We're not checking. We don't want. Well, it's not like Mexican clubs are looking for gringo followers, for Anglo followers. No, it's actually Mexican Americans. But they don't realize it, and I think one of the biggest faults is what Tom says. I mean, these are big enterprises. Televisa makes the money, TV Azteca makes money somewhere else, Cemex. But for example, with Monterrey and Tigres, I think those are two teams as well that have a lot of potential, because in Texas, in Houston, in Dallas, San Antonio, there's a lot of Tigres and Monterrey followers. And like you said, Walter, the Hispanic millennials, there's already a lot of Hispanic millennials in Texas that follow Tigres and Monterrey and don't know how to speak Spanish correctly or anything, and they follow them. But so there's potential, and I think I would say Tigres, after bringing in Gignac, and even if they bring Delort from France, I don't know if that's going to happen, but Ingeniero Rodriguez is still talking about that move. I don't know if that would open already. Hey, start doing stuff in other languages.
We've been talking a lot about potential, what teams could be doing, what would be the smart decision, and I want to ask you, Walter. You've been actually chatting to all these teams, as you've mentioned. You've worked with about a third of these teams. Would you say that are we going to see these kinds of changes in the future? Should we expect them in the near future? Are they perhaps going to be long-term projects, or is it, all this stuff that we talked about, is that potentially not feasible for these clubs?
It's feasible for every single club, even the Ascenso teams, to be honest. Whether they actually implement it or not will really depend on them and their attitudes on that. And again, it goes with Naive, exactly what he said. Oh, they might not be a priority, or they know that they have fans out there, but the assumption is that they all speak Spanish, and so that really makes a difference when you have these clubs, most of them around Mexico City, and you're literally thousands of miles from the U.S. border, and you're not really in tune with what's happening in the U.S. You're not in tune with Mexican Americans. That really, if you think about it, it's a new culture that's being started and emerging from Mexican Americans that are here. They're starting to create their own vocabulary, their own words. For example, if you were to say medical insurance in Mexico, you'd say seguro médico, or seguro del auto, no? But in the U.S., you say aseguranza in many places. I don't know if you've heard that or not, but they kind of anglicize, Americanized Spanish words, and so the culture and the norms are changing a lot here. And so you need these clubs to understand that you don't just necessarily speak to them in English, but you need to understand how to speak to them in English as well. So that way it doesn't seem fake or like a computer or a robot, And so, and one last point too, Naive. Although I agree with you that they do need to focus on these Hispanic millennials, I don't think that I think that's not the ending point. They actually need to start attracting, the wider soccer demographic and start to sell the league as a whole as an exciting soccer league that not just Mexican Americans will enjoy, but any Hispanic and any Caucasian male, African, etc., that wants to watch quality soccer. They can watch it with Liga MX because it's a quality soccer league, but the league itself doesn't sell themselves globally as that, and you can see the repercussions, and you will see the repercussions in the next 10 years or so.
Yeah, I was at the Soccer kind of little roundtable was figures of behind the Premier League in 1992 when it split from the English Federation. It was one of the head marketing guys of La Liga, forgot who they were exactly, Don Garber, the chief commissioner of MLS, and Bonilla from the Liga MX, the president of the Liga MX. And honestly, it was like, the Premier League guy was talking about the figures and everyone was blown away with the TV stats and the money. La Liga guy saying, we've got a better product on the field than the Premier League, but we want to kind of surpass the Premier League. We want to get up to that level. And then, on the marketing side, in terms of the TV side, that's what La Liga wants. The MLS guy's going, look, we're not at this level yet. We're not at the level of La Liga. We're not at the level of the Premier League. But we want to be there. We want to go challenging them. And then the Liga MX guy is just like, he's like, the strength of our league is the fans. We've got a lot of fans. And I'm thinking, that's his selling point. I think you have to have more ambition than that. And, I don't want to start moaning, but even for me, like working as a journalist in Mexico, I've been here 8 years now. The problems that I've had consistently to get any type of interview is like, and I'm not saying I should be treated differently than anybody else or a Mexican journalist, but it's always such a struggle to get interviews with clubs or with players, with managers. And I'm not like asking for an interview every 2 days and annoying them, but every now and then something comes up and you're like, and I'm thinking, do they not want? They're getting basically free coverage, free promotion, a different language for a different market, and I can never understand it. And it's like what Naive said with Gignac and Tigres. One of my good friends in Guadalajara is a French guy, and he knows Gignac. He's talked to Gignac. He knows everything what's going on with Gignac and what he's thinking and stuff. With regards to football, I'm not saying all the time, but that'd be weird. But Tigres are just it's so difficult for him. He has to actually go to Monterrey to kind of get straight answers from the press team. And it's the same with Monterrey. And I've never had any luck with Pachuca in terms of, unless I know people within the institution. But I'm talking in terms of the press teams. I think the outlook is they're looking inward. They're kind of scared. I know I've said this before, but I think it goes back to the history of Mexico. Basically, Mexico is a one-party state or democratic. You can call it that for 73 years. And I think that idea of PR, the idea that you know, the way you have to treat the press and the way that you should treat the press is completely lost. I think it's probably changing now, but it's taken a long time to get rid of the kind of the shackles of the mentality of that one party. And because if you're a one-party state, you don't want press. A journalist you have to view with a lot of suspicion, and I think that still permeates the Mexican society, basically, not just in football, but in politics and other things.
And I think, Tom, with that, one of the things that not only Liga MX needs to follow, but a lot of other leagues, global leagues, have a great admiration for MLS is their PR and the centrality, and everything seems to be uniform in the way that they operate their press and content, etc. And so by having that centrality, you can dictate, how the message is spread and giving more access without having the consequence that you may have seen in Liga MX. And so that's one of the issues that Liga MX has, not only there, but also just, with broadcast rights abroad, speaking of what you guys are talking about, having MLSs can be seen in China and England, etc. One of the issues, for better or worse, is that every Liga MX club is kind of fending for themselves in the global market, where they negotiate their own TV rights in the U.S., so nothing's bundled. And so as a result, the league really can't sell itself and can't really operate for the benefit of all their clubs and generate more revenue because every team is doing their own. If you were to see Liga MX sell their broadcast rights as a bundle to the U.S. and globally, you would see greater visibility, you'd see more cash coming in for the league, and you'd also maybe even see more uniform best practices for how to deal with media, how to generate content, etc. So I think, you can talk about the quality of MLS, the quality of play, but commercially and press and other aspects, they've been admired. I can tell you that from various leagues throughout the world.
Yeah,
they're kind of becoming the gold standard, if you will.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, for me, what you just said then is the difference between La Liga and the Premier League. La Liga was selling rights individually, clubs. Meanwhile, the Premier League was selling as a package. 10 years down the line, Premier League is absolutely global giant, and La Liga is trying to catch up now.
Yeah, fascinating. Fascinating. So I wish we could talk. Walter, we might have to have you back on the show again, just
I'd love to,
a full hour, just to go more in depth about this stuff. But unfortunately, we do have to talk about some soccer.
Any final thoughts, Walter? Any final thoughts or?
No, I think, like I said, I think what you guys are doing, and obviously your numbers show it, and you're following on Twitter, etc. You guys are definitely proof that there's a demand for Mexican soccer at the club level, at the league level, national team level, and that demand is being met by you guys. And so you guys are really trailblazing the way for these clubs to see, hey, you know what, we do have fans that may not speak any Spanish, and I think you have your guy Jason, who's not Hispanic, right? And he watches Liga MX. And so think about how many more fans these clubs and Liga MX can capture, like Jason, if they could only speak with them in English, right? And so keep doing the great work. I love your guys' show, and I look forward to joining on next episode with you guys.
Yeah, and where can we find you on Twitter?
It's at the W Franco.
All right. Well,
at the W Franco.
Well, thank you, Walter. Thanks to you, I'm now going to put Trailblazer on my resume.
I'll be references on any of your guys' resumes. Don't worry. So.
All right, well, awesome. Thank you again, Walter. Yeah, we're going to have you back on the show again because it's fascinating, especially with it's interesting for like me, Naib, or Tom to talk about it, but you're actually in the middle, but you're actually talking to these clubs. So we're going to have you back on the show again soon, man. But thanks again. Best of luck, and no 911 calls. So we were good.
Yeah. They must be in bed. So that's A+ night tonight for me. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right,
thank you, Walter.
Bye bye.
Yes.
All right, cool. Now, seriously, I'm gonna put Trailblazer on my resume.
One real quick on a thought about what Tom said and getting interviews here in Mexico. I get the sense here in Mexico that they're so obsessed with TV. Everything goes to TV. In Televisa Deportes Network over here in Mexico, ESPN, Fox Sports, it's TV and TV. They really don't look at the digital that much unless it's a renowned newspaper from Mexico that is going into digital. And we really, the real digital mark here in Mexico is Medio Tiempo still. And maybe you can say Juan Futbol. but they're so obsessed with TV over here in Mexico with the PR stuff that I think that also affects, I think, to a certain extent, the coverage that you could give to this
Yeah.
league at a global level.
Yeah, I think it's taken a while. I
I
mean,
think
even
it
just
works
even
like
the action. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
no, just I think it's like a lot of things in Mexico. It's about who you know. You know what I mean? So if they don't have a clue who I am, they're just like, who's this gringo who wants an interview? Why would he want an interview? You know what I mean? And I'm very aware that that's what they think. You know what I mean? Like, why would he? I just don't think they get it, basically. But anyway, I just don't think
Well,
they.
sp-
Yeah.
well, well, speaking of gringos, I saw a lot of gringos, a lot of Mexicanos, and a lot of Mexican Americans like me in Tijuana last Friday for the. I don't think any of us really expected Chivas to lose 4-0 to Tijuana. It was just it was a very effective game from Tijuana. It was they're smart with their possession. They're lethal with their finishing. Tom, what was the reaction like in Guadalajara after? It was a really. I mean, we could even talk about. It's just a difficult week for Chivas in general. Is there a crisis now? Is it a difficult time? Is this something to worry about, or is it just it's just one of those busy weeks for the team?
I think you can separate them in two things. I think the game against Jaguares, where they lost 4-1, they played most of the game with 10 players. It was raining heavily. I think they scored 3 late on. Chiapas scored 3 late on. Chivas were playing with kids. Okay, you lose games like that, and it just happens. It's a secondary competition. The game against Arsenal, I thought Chivas were pretty good in the first half. You play in Arsenal, they've got players like Oxlade-Chamberlain, Walcott. They've got some very good players that can do very good things. And Chivas played with a team that average of 22.3 years old. I mean, it was good experience for them. They lost. Okay, no problem. The worrying one, though, so I separate those and I say maybe not too worried about those 2 games.
Yeah.
But the worrying one was Cholos. I mean, it really was. The way that Chivas were getting hit on the transition when they lost the ball, the way they kind of seemed to, I don't know, the ease with which Cholos controlled that game was extremely worrying. The lack of confidence that Gullit Peña's showing, the lack of confidence of Isaac Brizuela, the fact Zaldívar's got so much expectation and, on his shoulders in terms of goal scoring, I think is a little bit unfair. And so, yeah, I was worried. And then when the players go off at the end, they're supposed to walk off together and a couple of them go off. So just little symptoms there. But, yeah. I mean, it's a big game on Saturday now for Chivas against Canelo.
Mm-hmm. No, I most definitely. I don't think the team's in a crisis. I mean, I think 2 of those players against Chiapas, for Chivas, that was their debut in the Copa MX, and I think those 2 players, along with someone, Michel Benitez, I think, players I'm not even aware of. They made their debuts against, or not their debuts, but they also started against Arsenal. So yeah, no, it's there are a lot of young players, a lot of young options, and you also have to consider that Chivas are having their busiest week after they gave up 4 of their players for the Olympic roster. But like you said, I also agree with the fact that you can't really, that loss to Tijuana was unforgivable, and they just, especially in defense, they just left so much space for Tijuana to run and take advantage of. So yeah, that was that's a worrisome sign for them.
Just quickly, the thing that as well for me that worries me about Chivas now is that there's so much stuff going on off the field with the Chivas TV. Omar Bravo got sold. Salcedo had problems with his family. Like, it just doesn't stop. You know what I mean? There's so many. The Olympic players go. The lack of form, the missed penalties. I mean, it's just a constant kind of recycling of negative stories again. And I just wonder, Mateus Almeida is now not just the manager, but he's also the kind of sporting director or head of football or whatever you want to call it. Now he's got so much responsibility at that club now. And then you look at for me, he's doing a decent job. But then the rest of the club's kind of just in this flux, you know what I mean? He doesn't know where it is. He's got this TV project, which is massive. It's a massive project. And I wonder, at some stage, Almeida is a world figure. I mean, he's a known figure in Europe, in Argentina. I mean, he's somebody who's got, a lot of credibility. I know he's a young manager. He's still yet to prove himself. But I'm just wondering if Almeida, further down the line, if he gets a decent offer or something and he's like, man, considering all this is going on at this club, I mean, is it worth me staying here?
I mean, I think it's difficult, the whole the Chivas story, and I like the tradition. I think it's special for the league. But when you see, for example, this weekend with Morelia, with Ruiz, and you think, man, if Chivas could have a forward of that caliber, but they can't because they have to produce a Mexican striker. And what's scary with Chivas is we've been talking about Omar Bravo for so long, and this guy, Omar Bravo, comes out in what, 2003, 2004? And we're in 2016, 12 years later. I know they produce Cubo Torres. I know they produce Chicharito Hernandez. But come on, I mean, at least produce something, two other good, reliable strikers. Saldívar is okay, but you could tell that the pressure is on him because he's still young. I mean, and it's normal. I mean, what could help Chivas at the moment is if Marco Bueno does in fact succeed in Rio de Janeiro, because if he scores a couple of goals over there in Brazil, then he can come in Chivas and be a support in the striker position. Because last season, we saw it last season, that the last part of last season was special for Chivas, mainly because Gullit Peña started rolling, Orbelín Pineda, and all of a sudden Chofis Lopez comes out. Well, now there's no Gullit, there's no Chofis, there's no Brizuela, and it worries. And even you see Gallito Vázquez making dumb mistakes in the midfield. Gallito Vázquez, who was a pretty pricey player. I think Chivas invested a lot in Gullit Peña and also in Gallito Vázquez from León.
Yeah. And I think actually, something that you just brought up, and I think that's, we wouldn't have to talk about today, but you brought up in your article on Sunday, I think it was your 5 blessings for the weekend. You're talking about, strikers for Chivas, but let's just talk about, let me just like strikers in general for Mexico. I think now you said who is going to be the next Chicharito, who is going to be the next Raúl Jiménez. It's worrisome right now. You look at the current starting Mexican options, like who's that going to be? Like Lalo Herrera? Is Lalo Herrera really going to be?
No. Lalo Herrera. I didn't mention it in the talking points, but Lalo Herrera was booed off the field of Estadio Olímpico Universitario because he's not scoring goals. He's actually messing a lot of easy plays in the forward position. Raúl Jiménez moved to Atletico Madrid happened in 2014. We're already in 2016, and it should worry that in this U23 team that is in Rio, the forwards are Cubo and Marco Bueno. I think between those two, they've scored like 2 goals in first division in the last year and a half. This is really serious. I mean, it doesn't have to do with the 10-8 rule. It more or less has to do with the production of strikers. I mean, or just the lack of opportunities that they have. I mean, in Jaguares Chiapas, you got Martin Zúñiga, but Zúñiga doesn't look that sharp either.
And Zúñiga as well in Cruz Azul, no?
Yeah, in Cruz Azul, yes. I mean, there's really small options there.
I mean, for me, this is the problem with 10-8, is that you have got a few. I mean, who else we got? It's going slipping now. Ronaldo Cisneros in Santos.
In Santos, yeah, he got minutes last. He got minutes.
The guy at Toluca, the Ernesto.
Alexis Vega.
Alexis Vega.
There are some knocking around, but my worry with 10-8 is whereas Oribe Peralta was just he was such a late developer, but because there wasn't this emphasis on foreigners at the time, he was kind of on the bench basically. He didn't get shunted away. You know what I mean? I worry that this next batch now of younger players, strikers in particular, if they're not banging in the goals, then they'll just go and buy like Naib to go to Peru and buy the Morelia guy. You know what I mean? I'm not sure whether they're going to be given the time. And then Martin, somebody saying on the chat, yeah.
Really quickly about Lalo Herrera, I just tweeted this over the weekend, but actually he didn't have not even just a single shot on target, but he didn't have a single shot until his 3rd start, until week 3. It's just a little bit of a little fact there about Lalo Herrera. So we could talk about this for a long time. Let's look at some other Liga MX scores. Let's talk about another big result was America losing 3-0 to Tigres. I think there's some beautiful golazos from that goal from that game. Not only just from Gignac, but also from Aquino, which was probably the goal of the weekend. Naive, what were your thoughts on the game? I know you follow America a lot. What was it feeling like down there in Mexico City after that significant loss to Tigres?
I think going into the game, I was at Cuapa on Thursday, 2 days before the match, and there was a lot of optimism in the air. The players were doing good. I mean, there was this sensation that Darwin Quintero is actually playing at his best level. There was confidence in the new signings, specifically looking at Bruno Valdez and Renato Ibarra. It looks like Ambriz likes them, and that's why they were in the starting 11 against Tigres. The 2 wins in the cup and the 2 wins in the league. There was this good run, and then all of a sudden the discipline issues. I mean, America has lost 3 consecutive league games against Tigres, and in all of those 3 matches, America at least gets one player sent off. That messes America up big time, especially against a team like Tigres that has options up top. It has Gignac, it has Sosa now, and it has Aquino. So when America tried to attack, and they actually did it in the first minutes of the second half, they let a lot of spaces in the back. And when you leave spaces against Tigres, you're gonna have troubles, and that's why the score read 0-3 at the end. Here, that's the I think it's a recurrent issue, and maybe it was a bit harsh, the red, in my opinion, to Ibarra. I think it was a bit harsh.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I thought that was yellow. Yeah.
yeah. So you can't that's a ref decision, but it does in a sense it does bother America a little bit, because they even talked this week, the 2 days before the game, that they were thinking about going undefeated and whatnot in their centennial celebrations. But of course, that's almost impossible at how Liga MX is playing out. With these teams that are really really stacked.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, because it's Liga MX, they weren't going to lose to a stacked team. They're going to lose somehow 1-0 at home in the Azteca to I don't know, Morelia or like Chiapas or something. Tom, any thoughts on America and the win by Tigres?
First, I mean, I just thought that's what they can do. I mean, an extremely good team, and if you look at the quality they've got going forward, like Naive mentioned there, and it's what they can do. I mean, the bench they've got as well. It's pretty unbelievable with Quiñones, Dam. They've got.
They've got what? Oh.
Hello.
See. Hello. Yeah, we got you.
Yeah. No, I mean, sometimes they're not the most exciting team, but there's a reason teams tend to sit back against Tigres, because they're absolutely loaded up front, and teams don't want to give them any space. So yeah, for me, I've said Tigres for the title this season. So let's see.
And just to look forward with Tigres, this is my personal impression. I mean, I might be totally wrong, but I like Sosa on the right wing. When Sosa plays in the center and accompanies, Sosa's basically playing like Sobis was playing last season. And I don't know if he really feels comfortable there. He flies a lot. I mean, his goal basically came from one of the wings. I think it came from the left or the right. I don't recall correctly. But, if Tigres does sign Delort and Gignac, like Tom said, I mean, I think they should win it. I mean, because then you're talking about Delort and Gignac in the center, and then you have Aquino on the left and Sosa on the right. I mean, no one has that in Mexico right now.
Yeah, no, that'd be a terrifying roster, and still they would only win games 1-0 somehow. All right, so to quickly run down the rest of Liga MX scores, we had Querétaro beating Puebla 2-1. We had Monterrey missing 2 penalties against Cruz Azul, a match that they should have probably won, but they ended up finding a draw at home, 1-1 against Cruz Azul. You had Atlas sneaking past Veracruz 1-0. Whether that was a goal or not, I mean, you go check out the replays. Yeah. I don't know. We had Pachuca sneaking past Necaxa with a 1-0 win as well, with Stefan Medina with his 3rd goal this season. He looks like he's one of the better players right now so far in the season. You had Pumas beating León 1-0 right now, even though Pumas aren't doing very much in the attack. There is plenty that Picolín is doing in net, which is why they're doing so well. You had Chiapas beating Toluca 1-0. and what could you really say about Chiapas beating the I guess it was a good result for Cardoso. Maybe it was a little bit bittersweet for him to be beating his old team. And then you had probably the most exciting game of the weekend. What I found to be the most exciting game, it was only because there was a lot of goals. Was Santos losing to Morelia 4-2. So we have. I mean, we can probably go another 10 minutes long. Are you guys all right with that? Just like 10 minutes long. Maybe going a little bit past the 8 o'clock mark. Just we could talk a little bit about the Olympics and
Yep.
about the upcoming friendly. Yeah. So
Yeah.
actually, Tom, you brought this up really quickly. Tom, talk
Well-
about Gignac to Barcelona. Is that something we should actually consider? Or was it just a slow news day, a slow news day, and we just needed something to talk about?
Well, it came from Mundo Deportivo, so I
Yeah.
don't know. Naib, I'll go over to you. I mean, I think it's a Barcelona-based publication.
Yeah, it
Barcelona
is,
could
it
do
is.
with somebody who's a definite reserve striker. Proven striker, good in the box, adds a bit of a physical dimension in case of Barcelona. It's not as it doesn't. As soon as when you first hear it, you think that's a bit ridiculous, but then you're like, almost like Chicharito with Madrid. Like just a striker who's going to be willing to sit on the bench, come on in the cups. If in case of injuries, and I don't know. I mean, it'd be difficult. What I would say, it'd be difficult for Gignac to turn that down, no matter how much he loves Tigres.
It's Mundo Deportivo. There's two Barcelona-based newspapers over there in Spain. It's Sport and Mundo Deportivo. So I mean, for Gignac to actually have a whole cover of Mundo Deportivo, it just tells you a little bit about how this rumor mill is running. And Gignac becomes an option for Barcelona because there's this notion. I mean, with Barcelona and Real Madrid, you already know who are the starters up top. I mean, Real Madrid, Bale, Cristiano, Benzema, and Barcelona is Messi, Suarez, and Neymar. So these clubs do want to have a good backup, but some players who are stars in France and Germany, they don't want to go or Italy, they don't want to go to Barcelona and be a bench. So where do you look at? You look at Argentina, you look at Colombia, you look at Brazil, and you look at Mexico. Mexico has Gignac right now. And like Tom said, Gignac offers certain characteristics that are similar to Luis Suarez's characteristics. Of course, they're not at the same level, but they play in a similar role. But that's why Gignac is an option. Now, the counter argument is that Gignac has shown a lot of passion to his idea of staying in Tigres. I think there's 3 years left in the contract, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he arrived to Mexico a couple of weeks ago, and that's the first thing he declared. He said, I'm going to stay in Monterrey until I'm 33 years old. But this prospect of playing with Messi and coloring his hair yellow like Messi, I mean, I think that could attract Gignac. It's possible.
Yeah, we'll see what updates and news we get in the next few days regarding that. I mean, personally, I just don't see it happening. I think we just have to take those rumors with a grain of salt. But I guess we've seen more ridiculous transfers and rumors in our lifetime. Let's talk about something that has also been making the news. It was just announced today. It was that Mexico's opponent on the friendly on October 8th in Tennessee is going to be against New Zealand. The immediate reaction from most people was just that, partido molero, this is a joke, blah, 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 blah. But there is also the case that, this potentially might be the only team that Mexico could potentially face off against during this time when many other teams are busy with World Cup qualifying. Tom, what are your thoughts on Mexico facing off against New Zealand in a friendly?
I don't have too many thoughts. To be honest.
I guess what is there really? I mean, is there really much to say about it? I don't. It's just that's the team that just have.
It's the constraints of the contract they have with some. I mean, they have to play in the U.S.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if Mexico was able to go to Europe, they could find a team. I don't know, Poland, Croatia, Serbia, teams that might not crash with a qualifier, the dates. But some European teams are not playing qualifiers at a certain date. I think it's just a constraint about the contract. You have a contract with some, so you have to play in the U.S. with someone. it can be New Guinea, it can be Congo, it could be New Zealand, but there has to be a game. There has to be a game, and that's what it is.
It could be a rec league team,
It could be a rec
somewhere in
league team.
Tennessee. I mean, but the crazy thing is that, like, go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say, imagine if the second game of the two is actually New Guinea.
We gotta go through
New
Guinea, and then we're gonna play against New Jersey, New Mexico. Just bring them all in, see what happens. No, I guess I think for me one of the big, I guess if there is a talking point about this, it's the fact that almost 20,000 tickets were sold before an opponent was even announced. It could have been anyone. Almost 20,000 tickets were already sold, and you could really. We talked with Walter about this, but that just says so much about the power of the national team out here. The potential they could really have. At least financially, the huge potential they're going to have just from having English language accounts, and just by growing new fans as well. But yeah, so that's something.
Speaking to Naive, he was like, why don't they just play Pueblo or something?
Why don't they just play Cholos? I mean, Cholos is an Argentinian-based team right now.
Cholos is like an Argentina G8 team or something. But it's probably better than New Zealand, let's be honest.
Hey, you know what?
You know what I mean?
Honestly, that probably would be better than New Zealand, wouldn't it? All right, so to wrap up the show, let's talk about, we're going to have a special show tomorrow, just specifically on the Olympics. We're going to be talking about, L3, what to expect. But really quickly, just any thoughts about the roster, about just something to give us a little bit of preview, something to look forward to before, the first match is going to be against Germany on August 4th, which is this Thursday, correct? Yeah, this Thursday. But yeah, anything regarding the Olympic team, anything that, providing us a little bit preview before tomorrow's show.
Tom?
It's the Olympic team, and we hope they bring back the gold. See you tomorrow.
I'm looking forward to it now. I'm looking forward to it. I like this Mexico team. I think they've got a lot of very good players. I spoke to Dennis de Grossi, the head of youth national teams today. That story is going to be on ESPN FC Wednesday. And I think it's interesting to hear his perspective of kind of an overview of where the national team's at. The interesting thing started the under-17s and under-20s league, I believe, in 2009. And it was a big thing for Mexican football in terms of youth development. And I think now with the increased focus from the federation and the amount of money that they put into youth development, which is substantial, this is almost like the first generation. This Olympic generation is the first group of players that have come through that under-17 system, under-20 system, and now making it to the Olympics. So, I think it's a big moment for Mexican football in terms of youth development.
Yeah, real quick, looking at the team and the possible lineup, of course this will be delved more into tomorrow, but there's this idea that there could be two strikers with Peralta and Marco Bueno up top, but I think here what we have to emphasize is that the core is Pachuca, with Víctor Guzmán, Rodolfo Pizarro, Eric Gutiérrez, and Irving Chucky Lozano. They will be in the lineup no matter what. They could be they could be the four midfielders. Lozano could be on the left wing and Pizarro on the right wing, and in the center Guzmán and Gutiérrez. But that will be interesting to see. Tom mentioned something about Salcedo early on in the show, and that he has, he's been having off the field problems. Does that mean that Jordan Silva and Cesar Montes are going to be the starters, not Cesar Montes and Carlos Salcedo? These are decisions that Potro will have to take in the next hours if Salcedo is really into the mode, because they will need a lot of concentration against Germany. Germany is not taking its best possible U23ers because some clubs didn't let them take them, but it's Germany. Germany is competitive as it can be.
Yeah. No, for me, I'm excited. Obviously, there's bringing back the gold, and that's obviously the entire goal for this team. But I'm excited to see, as you mentioned, some of those Pachuca players or someone like Salcedo, these players who, if they impress, us during these next few weeks, they could potentially be the future for the national team. Maybe in the next month, not next month, but in October's games for El Soria and in the senior national team. It'll be interesting to see if someone steps up and therefore kind of makes the case for themselves to make that transition up to Juan Carlos Osoria's team. So that's what I'm interested in. But yeah, good show today, guys. Thanks to Walter Franco for jumping on and talking about the business side, the social media aspects, and the significance of fans out here in the U.S. I mean, after all, we are talking about this in English, and there are people out there who are listening to this in English as well. So that says so much, about
10 of them. There's about 10.
There you go. Thank you to all 10 of you. 9 which are bots. You probably just like bots, and there's only one real person. Thank you to that one real person. Yeah. Good stuff, guys. Any final thoughts before we wrap up tonight's show?
No, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, actually, looking at Liga MX, the Cruz Azul Cholos will be at 5 on Saturday. The León Monterrey will be at 7. The Chivas Querétaro will be at 9. So it's amazing to have these games not bunched up. I mean, at least we're gonna be able to see 3 good games at 3 different hours.
Wait, 4 at the same time, 3 at the same time last week. God, man, that was hard.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So it's comfortable to have a good game at 5, a good game at 7, a good game at 9, not 3 good games at 7, for example.
Yeah, no, agreed. Tom, final thoughts.
No, Olympics now, so yeah, looking forward to
that. Bring back the gold, boys. That's come on. All right. Thanks to Tom. Thanks to Naive. Thank you to all the listeners. All one real listener out there. I'm kidding. We're just messing with you guys. I think right now we got about 30 watching right now. But thanks to everyone. I'll be gone tomorrow, but these guys or someone from the Mexican Soccer Show will be back tomorrow talking about the Olympics. So pay attention to that. Be on the lookout on the Twitter account for that. If you haven't subscribed yet, just look immediately below, probably right there. Just click subscribe if you want to keep updated on all the news that we'll be releasing. And all right. So thanks, guys. Have a good Monday, and I'll see you guys later.
Good night.